Inaz and the Two Unmarriageable Lovers. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This story is narrated in 4 books. Book 1. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in a review to be printed in a newspaper, magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real love story of 2 unmarriageable lovers. Therefore, all names, characters, places, and incidents are either the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental. Chapter 91. The Flawless Plan of Escape. Since the cat is out of the bag, it is high time to tell how the apostate girl had managed to escape from the state of Qatar and entered India. It was the good man Mr. Vijay Alexander who came up with the plan to help the trapped Sudanese apostate girl to escape from her helpless situation in the hotel in Doha. He first shared his plan with his wife. Mary liked the idea of helping a dear sister in the Lord, but she tried to discourage her husband because the plan involved high risk and also had some moral problems. Morally speaking, the plan required some forgery to be done through bribery and many lies to be told. In addition, there is a high risk of legal culpability. The persons who have to execute the plan may face legal prosecution if they are caught either in Qatar or in India. Nevertheless, Mr. Alexander argued that they cannot fold their hands and leave those Arab Muslim terrorists to murder an innocent girl like Inaz, who has done nothing wrong to deserve capital punishment. Finally, Mary bit the bullet and acceded. In the next step, Mr. Alexander shared his idea with his sister. Teresa immediately accepted the plan and showed great zeal in taking part in it. She said, for the sake of helping her best Sudanese girlfriend, she is prepared to go to jail all the rest of her life. After that, the members of the Alexander family discussed among themselves whether to disclose the plan to the Ethiopian husband of the trapped Sudanese apostate wife or not. They all anticipated that Joseph would stand strongly against the plan because it was going to put the life of Teresa at high risk and also would damage the good reputation of the Alexander family in their church. They may be excommunicated as happened to Joseph and Inaz before and get kicked by the pastor out of the holy sanctuary of the Sheep of Bandra Church. Besides, it may lead to the arrest of Mr. Alexander if Inaz and Teresa are arrested and subjected to harsh interrogations and forced to reveal the mastermind of the plan. Despite all the risks involved, the good members of the Alexander family decided to go ahead with their plan. According to the plan, Miss Teresa Alexander has to fly from Bombay to Doha and check in at the same hotel Inaz has been trapped in. She should carry with her 2 passports having the same name, but different photos. The first passport will be the current one Teresa is having. The second passport, which Mr. Alexander promised to obtain through bribery and forgery, must have Teresa Alexander's name, but the photo of the ambushed apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Sulla. Teresa is having a huge album that has hundreds of photos of her best Sudanese girlfriend. In addition to the 2 passports, Teresa should carry a one-way air ticket for Inaz and 2-way air tickets for her round trip to the Gulf countries. She should also have another ticket which will fly her from Doha to Dubai and from Dubai to New Delhi. From the capital of India, she should travel back to Bombay through the Rajdhani Express train. She has to carry her Rajdhani booked ticket with her. Then and only then, after the Indian Teresa is safely back in Bombay, the Sudanese Teresa has to use the other passport of her Indian girlfriend to return to her homeland. But the main question, how Inaz can escape unnoticed by the police of Doha who is guarding the hotel around the clock. Moreover, there are many Muslim protesters who made the outside area of the hotel their stronghold. They are eating, sleeping, urinating, and defecating in their well-fortified place. They swore by their Allah God that they should not leave the hotel and return to their houses until they spill the blood of the accursed apostate Sudanese woman who dared to call their religion the religion of terror and terrorists and distorted the beautiful and aromatic biography of their infallible prophet who is the master of creation and came as a mercy to mankind. It is the job of Teresa to help her Sudanese girlfriend to disguise herself as a male. Inaz had already related to her Indian girlfriend how she cut her hair and dressed up as a boy and ran away from her abusive husband in Saudi Arabia. So, the plan required the trapped apostate girl has to play the same trick and fool the Arab police and the Muslim protesters who are waiting outside to kill her. Teresa carried male clothes as well as female dresses for Inaz. She also carried with her a pair of scissors and many more tools for the makeup. She is also to give Inaz some traveling checks and $2,000 and 10,000 Indian rupees. Mr. Alexander contacted the hotel management and booked a room for his sister and paid the price online. Luckily, the hotel still remains open for outside guests. Even the inside guests are allowed to check out any time they want to do so. The plan worked perfectly well until Teresa arrived at the hotel and found her beloved girlfriend Inaz. She explained to her what her brother and his wife had planned. The trapped Muslim apostate girl was hesitant in the beginning. She said if she gets caught in Doha Airport or Bombay Airport, she may confess everything if she is subjected to those cruel floggings again. Teresa assured her their plan is flawless and God is going to help her in every stage of her escape and return to Bombay. The stranded Muslim apostate girl understood that she has no other choice except to take the risk and flee out of that hellish Muslim country. After spending 2 days with Inaz and helping her in transforming herself into a handsome young boy, Teresa wished her Sudanese girlfriend good luck, kissed her goodbye, and checked out of the hotel. She traveled in a taxi to Doha International Airport to catch her flight to Dubai. She stayed for 5 hours in transit and flew back to India. From New Delhi, she traveled by the Rajdhani Express train and arrived safely back in her house in Bombay. On the same day she returned home, Mr. Vijay Alexander phoned the new Teresa and told her to begin executing her plan of escape from the bottomless pit of the Middle East. 50% of the Arabs of the petrodollar Gulf countries are simple and naive people. Although many of them are quite wealthy, they have the cognitive abilities of children. Most of them cannot read or write. If you ask them about the reason for their illiteracy, they will tell you no need to learn reading and writing because they have enough money to buy highly educated people from India or Africa to work for them and maidservants from Pakistan and the Philippines to serve them. The duties of those foreign maidservants are to serve them by day and become female sex slaves to satisfy them by night. Sometimes, you may find the Arab manager or a boss of his big company signing a contract with his thumb. A peon or a security guard may be more educated than his Arab boss. Their main concern in life is to satisfy their sexual needs. It does not matter whether that sexual urge is satisfied through a female pussy or a male anus. Sometimes, a goat or a cow can be used to serve the same purpose. Accordingly, that day when the lovely boy walked out of the hotel while he was pulling his small backpack, every male began to think about satisfying his small third leg or his dick. As soon as she stepped out of the hotel, Inaz stopped a taxi and requested the driver to take her to the Hamad International Airport. The cabbie was a Pakistani. He tried to engage his passenger in a chat, but the handsome boy Inaz ignored him and remained quiet. She did not want to talk and expose her feminine voice. According to the plan, the apostate girl Inaz is supposed to return to her true identity as a girl as soon as she reached the international airport. Upon her arrival, she went inside the men's washroom and wiped all the makeup from her body. She removed the artificial mustache and small beard. She also reduced the eyebrows that Teresa added to her face. After that, she applied lipstick and a lot of makeup. She also used cosmetic brushes and other beauty tools. She applied manicure to all her nails. In short, she emerged out of the washroom as the most beautiful and hot girl in the Arab International Airport. Fortunately, there were only 2 old guys when she came out of the men's washroom. One was blind and the other was an over 80 years old geezer. When she came out that day, the sexy Sudanese Teresa Alexander saw the majority of the other female passengers are wrapped from head to feet with those coffin-like demeaning black burqas. They looked scarier than Halloween witches and black ghosts. Although the plan is foolproof, Mr. Alexander was still aware of one hole in it. Through his sister Teresa, Inaz was also made aware of it. The Indian passport the Sudanese girl Inaz is carrying has no visa from the Qatar embassy in New Delhi or consulate of Qatar in Bombay, and also has no stamp by the Doha International Airport to indicate that Teresa Alexander has arrived in Qatar. Nevertheless, the Hamad International Airport has a record in their computer that an Indian girl by the name of Teresa Alexander had arrived from India on a visa issued by the Qatar consulate in Bombay. Therefore, if the airport authority questioned the new Teresa about the absence of the visa and entry stamp, she should say she lost her passport and got a new one from the Indian embassy at Doha. Of course, the airport authority is not going to keep Teresa standing in front of them until they contact the Indian embassy and prove or disprove her claim. At the Hamad International Airport, the Sudanese Teresa faced a problem that no one among the Alexanders had predicted. The female police officer who suspected the true identity of Inaz is from an Indian background. Instead of searching the passport for a Qatar visa and stamp, she searched it for forgery. She painstakingly searched for it in and out, hoping to find a slight fault to confirm her suspicion that it is a work of forgery, but she found none. After that, she started to question the Sudanese Teresa about her lack of knowledge of any Indian language. Inaz said she did not learn any Indian language because she was born and brought up in Saudi Arabia. Then she asked her about her fluency in Arabic. The Sudanese Teresa said her father is an Indian Christian and her mother is an Arab Christian from Lebanon. Having nothing more to ask, the female officer stamped Teresa's passport in anger and told her to go and catch her flight to Bombay. Everything worked as expected, and the blacklisted foreign female student Inaz Ahmed Sulla had returned to India under the name of Teresa Alexander. Therefore, Mr. Alexander had no clue that her name had been blacklisted before she was extradited to Sudan. Had he known that, he would not have taken such a dangerous step by bringing her back to India under a fake identity. He might have arranged a different plan to send her anywhere else in the world except his country. Chapter 92. On being a female suspect in the third world. For those who are following the events of the heartbreaking, sad, tragic life story of the terribly abused and persecuted Sudanese apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Sulla, they are about to enter a place no one would like to enter except through coercion by the strong arms of the policemen who have to apply the law. Before we enter there and find out what has happened to the innocent refugee girl Inaz, we need to tell the reader some important information which we gathered about the jail in India. Whether the female suspect is innocent or guilty, she will face the following serious problems inside the Indian jail. When she is arrested, the first problem she will face is the police female interrogators. Those female interrogators are well-trained policewomen, and their main duty is to extract the truth from the female suspect. They had been trained to beat her on every part of her body without shedding a drop of blood or killing her. We have been told that those harsh female interrogators had been trained with all kinds of harsh methods in Italy, and hence they mastered all the cruelties of the international mafia gang. They are even far crueler than the Spanish inquisitors, the Russian Gestapo, the Muslim Mujahideen, the terrorists of ISIS, and the Nazi genocide war criminals. After them, the female suspect will be handed over to the doctors to examine whether she is fitting for imprisonment or not. Any female suspect who miraculously survived the cruel beatings by the female interrogators is supposed to be declared unfit for imprisonment and should be sent to the emergency intensive care unit in the nearest hospital. Nevertheless, the doctors, without checking her badly damaged body, will declare her fit for jail. The reason behind that, the corrupt Indian doctors will begin to bargain with the family of the female suspect. If she happens to be from a rich family, and her family members are ready to pay them what they demand, then they will recheck her health condition and declare her unfit for incarceration. In that case, she may spend most of her sentence in the hospital. After those medical doctors, the female suspect must face the female guards. Those female guards do the least evil to her. Their main task is to confiscate from her every valuable thing that happened to be with her when she is arrested. For instance, if she is having some cash, a nice watch, a gold chain or a ring, other jewelry such as a necklace, earrings or bangles, and an expensive sari, shirt, trouser, or shoes, these belongings will be confiscated by the female guards. The female suspect's later whether she has been declared innocent or guilty will never get her belongings back or see them again. After that, she will be either dragged or carried by the female guards and thrown inside one of the barracks. She now has reached the end of her journey from the free world to the prison world. Among the female suspects and prisoners, there are some women who call themselves watchwomen. I hope no person while reading this story gets deceived by the good name those jail watchwomen call themselves. Those watchwomen are criminals and do criminal acts. They are those female criminals who got tried and convicted. Most of them are serving life imprisonment or on death row, awaiting their turn to be hanged to death. Therefore, they lost all hope in life and their hearts are turned into stones. They are crueler than the female police interrogators. They do not care if their victim dies in their hands. When the female guards bring a new female suspect inside the barrack, those watchwomen will beat her mercilessly. After that, they will inquire about her offense. If her charge has to do with money, she will be the object of their attention as long as she is in jail. For instance, if her accusation is like income tax, social deception, and bribe is highly favored by those watchwomen. With their agents outside the jail, the watchwomen will make a deal with the relatives of their victims. Any family refuses to pay for their protection service, their detained female relative will be battered mercilessly day and night. Next to the watchwomen, the female suspect will face the problem of bedding inside the barrack. Each barrack will be stuffed with 200 to 300 female suspects and convicted female prisoners plus uncountable numbers of rats and lizards. Very often snakes and scorpions will show up too. No bed sheet, mattress, or pillow is allowed inside the barracks. Besides that, the female inmates have to spend their nights while their bodies are enduring torture by the biting of millions of mosquitoes and other bugs of the bloodsuckers. By day, the flies will be hovering everywhere in billions. The last problem the female suspect will face at night is the place of her sleep. There is a good place and a bad place to sleep. The bad place is near the toilet where she spends her time in jail inhaling the odor of urines and feces that's spreading an unbearable nasty smell. The jail's toilets in India are as filthy as hell. The female cleaners scare to death to enter the prison and clean the washrooms due to fear of the dangerous female criminals. The imprisoned women are divided into female suspects and female convicts. The female convicts are those prisoners who had been tried and found guilty and sentenced to imprisonment, while the female suspects are those prisoners who are on remand. A female suspect sometimes may spend more than 2 years under trial. During that long waiting period, she is not entitled to receive a prison uniform, shoes, soaps, toothbrush, toothpaste, and tea or coffee from the jail authority. It is the responsibility of her family to supply her with such necessities of life. If she happens to be a loafer or an outcast or a beggar and has no one to take care of her outside the jail, she will remain as long as she is in pretrial without these basic needs of life. In addition to that, the bad female inmates will force the less aggressive female suspects to sleep with those women who have not washed their bodies and cleaned their filthy clothes or brushed their teeth for months or years. When the Muslim apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Silla was detained prior to her extradition to Sudan, she was placed under custody. Detention before a charge is referred to as custody. Therefore, she did not go through all those difficulties in her former detention. Those who detained her knew her detention was unlawful because she had committed no offense. Moreover, she informed them that she is a refugee girl in India, but they ignored her refugee status. Even so, they fabricated some false religious charges and kicked her out of India with the help of her Sudanese embassy. But now, the female foreign student Inaz has committed an illegal act by breaking the law. She managed somehow to enter India, though her name is blacklisted in every airport and port in the entire country. Therefore, she now has been accused as either she smuggled herself across the border or she forged another identity and used it to return to India. The new head of the Bombay Criminal Investigation Department is suspecting that the Sudanese apostate girl was assisted by some foreigners in her escape from the hotel in Doha City and returned to Bombay City. He accused by name the American Marines in the U.S. military base in Qatar and the Jewish Mossad agents in Israel. If he can establish such a connection between his subject of interest and those foreigners, then the life of the suspected girl Inaz is doomed, and she is going to face more severe punishment than the one she experienced before. In the meantime, the arrest of the Sudanese apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Salah is shocking and disturbing news to the Alexander family. They had never anticipated her arrest or expected her to miss her flight to Canada. That day, after they kissed Abraha family goodbye, the 3 members of the Alexander family returned home with sad hearts. They thought they might never see them again. In a short time, Inaz and Joseph became part of their family. They loved them so much and did everything they could to ensure their safety and comfort. Shortly after their return from the international airport, Joseph came with his baby daughter Grace and conveyed to them the shocking news. The sad news hit each one of them like a heart attack. After overcoming the shock, Mr. Vijay Alexander phoned many police officers he knows in the city and requested them to intervene and save the life of the innocent Sudanese refugee girl Inaz Ahmed Salah, who has been unjustly arrested at the Bombay International Airport. They all promised to investigate the reason for the arrest, and after that, they will do their level best to help her get released and be allowed to fly to her new resettlement in Canada. Chapter 93. Inaz in the Bottomless Pit. The apprehended foreign female student Inaz Ahmed Salah has remained detained in the lockup room until the Indian police officer who arrested her at the Bombay International Airport had finished his night shift. Before he left, he filed a serious charge against her. In his charge sheet, he mentioned that the detained Sudanese female foreign student had somehow smuggled herself inside the country. He also stated that she had already been extradited to the country of her origin and her name is blacklisted by the Bombay Criminal Investigation Department. Accordingly, her return to India is unlawful and hence a crime punishable by the law. In the meantime, the foreign female suspect Inaz has been cast inside a bottomless pit. When the Sudanese refugee girl has entered that pitch-black room, she could not see anything. Her eyes have not yet become accustomed to seeing in the dark. Therefore, her other senses have given her some idea of what is inside the dark room. First, her nose has inhaled the nastiest smell she had not smelled before in her entire life. It is a mixture of urine, feces, liquor, sweating, vomiting, and bad breaths. Her stomach immediately reacted and moved, and her mouth vomited with every food she had eaten on that day. When there was nothing remaining for her to vomit, she began to feel nausea. At the same time, her ears have begun to hear some sound of snoring, groaning, weeping, and gnashing of teeth. Those sounds have revealed to her that there are some living beings indwelling the dark place where she has been cast. But whether they are human beings or animals or ghosts, she could not figure it out. To protect herself from those dwellers, she decided to remain where she is standing. When she felt so tired, she slowly and carefully sat down. Her legs are folded together. She hesitated to stretch out her legs and touch one of those inmates of the dungeon, and that creature gets offended and attacks her. She took out her handkerchief and put it on her nose and mouth like a coronavirus mask to protect herself from the killing pestilence she is inhaling from the time she has been thrown inside that bottomless pit. Inaz has remained sitting on her feet and hugging her legs for a quite long time. Her face is resting on her knees. Of course, such a posture is not comfortable for her. Whenever she feels the pain on her feet or legs has become too much for her to bear, she stands up for some time, and when standing becomes painful too, she sits down again. She has done that compulsory and torturing push-up and sit-up drill many times and for an awfully long time. She understood that she had to spend her first night in that dark chasm standing up and sitting down. Inaz had been transferred to that abyss at midnight. She has spent the first 3 hours struggling with her physical and mental tortures. She still has 3 long hours left before the daybreak. She began to feel sleepy due to the lack of sleep she had had last night. She has tried hard to fight her sleep. She is scared of the consequences of falling asleep in such a dark room. She has been finally overcome her fatigue. She kept on falling asleep and getting up every now and then. Her sleep resembles a chicken sleeping on a rope or a tired girl sleeping in a fast-traveling car. Whenever she falls asleep, her body also falls either to the left or to the right, forward or backward. Whenever she is about to fall on her face, she wakes up, and then she goes to sleep again. So, the apprehended girl spent the remaining 3 hours falling in and out of sleep. When morning came, she woke up with a strong headache. She is also feeling feverish. Her body is having the shakes. She is sweating terribly. She is feeling like throwing up, but there is nothing left in her stomach to vomit. She wept bitterly when she remembered her wonderful nights which she spent sleeping comfortably with her handsome husband and lovely baby daughter in the apartment that was provided to them free of charge by the good Alexander family. Around 6 o'clock in the morning, Inaz has finally got up from her painful sleeping. She opened her eyes wide to see where she had been detained. When she has seen the female inmates of that abysm, she wished in her heart that they are animals rather than human beings. Those creatures are not much different in their outside appearances from animals. Even stray animals might not be kept in such miserable conditions. Their faces are disfigured, and their eyes are red in color and filled with dirtiness. Their hairs have not been properly combed. Their clothes are torn and full of dirtiness and blood. Some of them are wearing filthy rags. Some of them are not in their proper senses due to their drug overdoses and so much consumption of liquor. Some are crazy and doing crazy things. Some faces showing they are female beggars, and other faces revealing homeless and female loafers. All those creatures are women. They are homeless girls, prostitutes, murderers, liquor sellers, thieves, and other dangerous female thugs. There is not any face among them that can reveal innocence. The majority of them are habitual female offenders. The rest except the foreign female student Inaz are Indian female suspects. Inaz has found herself like a lotus flower that has suddenly grown in the midst of mud and dirt. She is the only Arab girl while all other women are Indians. The early sun rays revealed to her those horrible faces. She is very much terrified by their miserable conditions. While she is looking at them with fear and trembling, she begins to see some of them are doing in front of her eyes incredible acts. Some women are urinating, some are vomiting, and some are doing dirty and disgusting things. She closed her eyes and began to weep. She wondered how the Indian police authority could treat human beings in such an inhuman way by not allowing them even to go to the toilets. How could they imprison female citizens of the country in a filthy place like this? It is dirtier than the sewer. Even animals might not be treated like that in other countries. Inaz could not believe that her high hope and promise of going with her handsome Ethiopian husband Joseph and their female baby Grace to the promised land could be degraded to such a low level. Instead of flying to heaven, she has landed in hell. She is wishing that she is dead instead of being in such a filthy place. Her heart is filled with anger and bitterness towards the Indian police officer who arrested her and sent her to such hellish detention. She asked herself time and again why she always has to suffer. What crime has she committed in life that she deserved to be punished for forever? Inaz wished in her heart that she can meet some good Indian police officers who will believe her words when she tells them that she is a refugee girl. And then they will release her and let her go and resume her trip abroad, and all this will be just a bad dream. Meanwhile, the hours are slowly passing one after another like centuries. The morning came and went away, and the noontime came following very slowly. Noon is the most horrible time of the day. The dark room has no windows. So, it is becoming hotter and nastier as the noontime continues to grow. There is no fresh air to inhale anywhere. The nasty smell is intensified. The female dwellers of the hell are sweating as if they are burning in Gehenna. Some are farting continuously as if they are having diarrhea and therefore defecating inside their filthy clothes. Their bodies produce a noxious smell like that of corpses which have been left unburied until become decomposed. In such inhumane and horrific and unbearable conditions, the detained Sudanese refugee girl, Inaz, has spent her second day until the evening. The night is far better for her than the day, for the darkness of the night has hidden from her eyes those miserable faces. Besides that, the night has also kept the mouths of those women shut. Many of them had fallen asleep. Since the day broke and those women came out of their sleep and alcohol stupor and drug influences, their mouths began to utter filthy words. The filthiest Indian words that Inaz had never heard before, or she is expecting one day to hear. To protect her morals, she has closed not only her mouth and nose with her handkerchief, her ears too with her fingers. To keep this book G-rated, we should not mention a single word from their obnoxious vulgarities and earthiness. Around 6 p.m. Inaz started to feel the pangs of hunger. Her hunger has made her notice some peculiar phenomenon of the female inhabitants of the bottomless pit. From the time she was cast into that inferno until she felt hungry, she has never seen any woman of the dwellers of the dark dungeon eating food or drinking water. Therefore, she has marveled at their endurance to survive without those basic necessities of human existence. She is wondering whether those women are purposely starved to death. Her conclusion is confirmed by seeing the hunger-stricken faces of some women. Nevertheless, she will prefer to starve herself to death than eat or drink in such a dirty place. Another strange phenomenon of the place of torment, which Inaz has also noticed, is to do with the newcomers. From the time she got up from her painful sleep, she is seeing at least 2 or 3 female newcomers have been dragged by huge policewomen and cast into the lockup. When the sun set that day, the darkroom has been so filled until there is no room left for the new female arrivals to come in. Inaz is so worried as to what will happen if such infilling continues for another 24 hours. She has a long time ago been forced to stand on her feet, for there is no place for her left to sit anywhere. Some of the female newcomers are dead drunk or drugged like stones. Some women have been savagely beaten on their faces, and their clothes are torn and smeared with their blood. Some female suspects could not be able to walk on their feet and hence had been dragged like logs by the policewomen and dumped inside the place of affliction and suffering. Some females are having open and copiously bleeding wounds. Some suspected women who got savagely battered by either the female cops or other aggressive female suspects or prisoners are dying, and some have died, and their spirits departed from their corpses. At 7 p.m., Inaz has seen 4 policewomen standing in front of the door of hell. One of them has taken out of her pocket a big key and unlocked the door of the bottomless pit. Then Inaz saw the huge policewomen force their way inside the dungeon. By then, the darkroom had been filled to the brim. To allow such huge women to come in, the female dwellers of the dark cave are forced to gather themselves together. Those unlucky female inmates, as Inaz, who happened to be standing near the wall, are crashed against the solid concrete. She is breathing with difficulty. Her feet, against her wish, have been lifted off the ground. She began to fight for her survival. She concluded that if those huge female elephants prolong their stay, she will definitely breathe her last and her spirit will leave her body and ascend out of that place of agony and anguish. If such a painful death happens, the suspect foreign female student may prefer such an end than to spend another night in that hellish place. One of the 4 policewomen is having a list of names in her hand. She began to loudly read the names from her list. Every name has been called. Its owner has been asked to step out. Inaz wished in her frightened heart that her name is included in the list. She thought in her troubled mind, wherever they are taking them or whatever they are going to do to them will be less cruel than spending another night in such a filthy cave. The policewoman has continued to read her list until she reached the name Inaz Ahmed Silla. "Yes, ma'am," shouted the detained foreign girl. "Come out, you dirty girl," thus shouted another huge policewoman. Inaz has forced her way out with much difficulty between those tens of Indian female suspects. While she is going out, she heard another policewoman screamed on her face saying, "Wait a minute." Inaz stopped and turned her face slowly towards the 4 policewomen. When she stood before them and has a good look at their faces and bodies, she thought they are men in women's clothing. She has never seen women resemble men in her life as those 4 policewomen do. The 4 women are having big faces, breasts, noses, mouths, lips, hands, legs, heads, and ridiculously huge bodies. The only small things are their red eyes, which are shooting out fire. "Are you the Sudanese girl who had been arrested at the international airport?" asked the biggest policewoman among the 4 female elephants. "Yes, ma'am." "So, you are the criminal foreign girl who had illegally smuggled herself inside the country." Inaz has remained silent. She's scared that she might be shot and killed at the spot if she admitted to the serious charge that has been laid against her. Tonight, I am going to make you kiss my feet while you are half naked and pee in your underwear, you dirty prostitute. I am not a prostitute. Please do not address me like that, ma'am. Shut up, oh the filthiest foreign prostitute who has a pussy as big as the mouth of a whale. Then the evil Indian policewoman took hold of the female foreign suspect's hand and pulled her out of the place of the ordeal, agony, anguish, and slow human death. After that, she pushed her inside a police wagon and jumped in and seated her huge body near her. The female foreign suspect Inaz Ahmed Silla has become like a baby girl sitting beside a human dinosaur. She knew and understood that the huge female elephant woman has meant to do harm and sheer evil for her. Therefore, she began to sweat and tremble in fear, dread, despair, and panic. Chapter 94. The first police interrogation of the foreign Muslim apostate girl. The Bombay police foreign wagon, which is transferring the detained female foreign student Inaz Ahmed Silla and the other Indian female suspects, is like one of those iron cage trucks which the zoo workers use to bring in dangerous wild beasts from the jungle such as tigers, lions, hyenas, wolves, and other ferocious wild beasts. When Inaz climbed the iron-caged wagon, she found it is so crowded with the other female inmates from the dark dungeon. Those suspected women have brought with them the nasty odor of the bottomless pit, and hence the smell in the windowless wagon is horrendous and unbearable, to say the least. Inaz has been forced to squeeze herself between two huge policewomen. She looks like a baby stroller between two trucks connected to two tractor trailers. The wagon immediately left after the suspect refugee girl and the other Indian policewoman have entered it. Then the wagon went out of that police station into the busy streets of Bombay. Inaz has no slight idea where they are taking them except that the four huge policewomen have meant evil for them. The difficult circumstances in which the young foreign female suspect had found herself engulfed in them did not allow her to think of her handsome Christian husband Joseph, or her lovely baby daughter Grace, or the loving Alexander family, or her overseas trip to the Promised Land. She was continuously worrying about what she was going through in that dark dungeon. She expected to die any moment inside that bottomless pit. But now, after the four huge female demons have taken her out, she began to think about what is going to happen to her and to those loving Indians who helped her to escape from her ambush in Doha and brought her back to her family in Bombay. They will be in serious legal problems if the police of Bombay have discovered the illegal way she had smuggled herself and returned to India. While the wagon is running on the streets, the detained foreign female suspect's eyes are looking through the iron net to the crowded streets of the biggest cosmopolitan city in India. Although she had spent a long time living in Bombay, she had never seen those dirty and miserable-looking people who are roaming aimlessly in the narrow lanes and filthy open gutters. As if she had been brought to a different city. Not the beautiful city in which she had spent the best days of her life with her extremely handsome lover Joseph in that paradise-like seashore of Marine Drive. Those poverty and hunger-stricken Indians have appeared to her like they are living in a big open jail. They were born to suffer and die a miserable death in the streets like stray dogs being abandoned by their owners. Their children are emaciated and looked like walking skeletons. They were born yesterday and today they are dying. They have nothing to play with. They are little beggars and thieves. If they do not beg and steal, they will starve to death. Their small girls are underage prostitutes. They have been forced to practice sex before they understood what sex is all about. It took 1.5 hours for that moving cage-like prison to reach its final destination. All the female detainees have been either pushed down or dragged out of the wagon by the four ruthless policewomen. When the Sudanese refugee girl Inaz likewise has been pulled out and pushed down, the first thing that attracted her attention is the name of the place where she has been brought to. She has seen written in big capital letters, Tana Central Prison for Women. The Tana Central Jail used to be a fort called Tankilla or Herkut. The Portuguese ruled Tana for over 200 years from 1530 to 1739. During this period, Tana was known as Kasabi de Tana. Construction of the Tankilla fort was started in 1730 AD. In 1737, the Maratha general Chimaji Appa planned the conquest of Vasai, Portuguese became, and on March 28, 1738, the Marathas conquered the Tankilla. The fort is presently being used as Tana Central Prison, which is divided into two jails, men's prison and women's place of confinement. The refugee girl Inaz heard many horrifying stories about that Tana prison. The evil things that happening there to the female inmates the outside world cannot see in reality except in horror movies. Recently, she read in the local newspapers, a Somali female foreign student was brutally murdered by some Indian female inmates inside that dangerous prison. It is the place where many notorious female criminals were hanged, many famous female politicians were gang-raped and tortured to death, and many innocent women were falsely accused and imprisoned indefinitely for years without end. Some female prisoners had died before they could finish half of their terms. Many female suspects came out of that jail mentally and psychologically sick. Young girls were raped by their male guards, top police officials, and inmate lesbians. Some women went inside innocent and came out dangerous female criminals. Some young single girls went inside as virgins and came out either pregnant or with 1 or 2 babies. Inaz once again wished that she were dead and not still alive to enter such a dangerous place. She thought a Sudanese ghost house might have been a better dungeon for her than that notorious women's jail. She asked herself why God did not intervene and save her from being unjustly arrested. Her eyes are flooding with tears when the huge policewoman grabbed her hand and pulled her inside the jail premises. She is the same one who threatened to make her kiss her feet tonight while half-naked and pee in her underwear. What an evil woman to threaten an innocent girl like her with those filthy words. The policewoman took her through a small and very narrow passage. They have to bow their heads to pass through the entrance. When they entered the jail, Inaz has been given a sheet of paper and asked to read it. The paper is containing the charge which had been written by the International Airport police officer who arrested her. She was taken to a small room. 2 of the 4 huge policewomen have accompanied her to that room. When she reached there, she was forcibly tied to a wooden chair. Before they tied her up, they stripped out her t-shirt and jeans. She has been left only in her underwear and bra. Inaz began to panic, thinking that they have prepared her for someone to come and rape her. After that, the 2 policewomen switched off the lights and left. The small room became pitch dark. Inaz opened her eyes as wide as she could, but she could not see even her body. Her body had been engulfed by horrifying darkness. Such pitch darkness reminded her of some religious stories, which she learned in school about the sufferings in the grave. She was told that the grave is so dark that a dead girl cannot see her own hand, even if she stuck it to her eyes. She was also informed she will be resurrected from death from her belly bottom and upward. Her buttocks, pussy, anus, legs, and feet will remain dead, so she cannot dream of escaping from the angels of death. After that, the 2 interrogating angels, Munkar and Nikir, will suddenly appear before her eyes in their shining clothes. The first question they will ask her, "Who is your Lord?" If she says any other name than Allah, they will hit her across her head. Their hit is so powerful that it will cause her to sink deep into the earth. Then they will put their hands out and pull her out. Then they ask her, "Who is your prophet?" If she mentions any other name than the beloved of Allah, the master of creation, the Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Kilab, they will hit her even harder than before. This time, their powerful blow will cause her to sink deep to the bottom of the planet Earth as the distance of traveling on foot for 200 years. Like before, they will dig her out and continue their harsh interrogation technique. After that, they will ask her, how is her relationship with her neighbors? Any negative answer will send her again beneath the earth. She should not try to fool them, for every bad deed she had done in her life is written on her left shoulder, and every good deed in her right shoulder. If she failed their exam, they would hand her over to the bald-headed snake. The length of that terrible snake is a journey of 1,000 years. It continuously bites and tortures her until the day of judgment. With those scary thoughts, the foreign female suspect Inaz has remained half an hour wondering who will come to her first, her rapists or the grave angels. After half an hour, none of those have come except the female police extortionists. If she knew how evil those female extortionists are, she might have preferred the other 2 groups, even if they have to come all together and simultaneously gang rape her and torture her forever. So, now the foreign female suspect Inaz Ahmed Salah has to face her police female interrogators. After half an hour, the door of the grave-like room has been suddenly sprung open. Then the suspect refugee girl began to see some dark shadows have slowly crept in. The dark shadows also reminded her of ghosts. She thought she might have been cast into one of those ghosts' houses she heard about in Sudan. When the door had been shut again, she began to hear voices whispering to one another. Even though the door is closed, she knows the ghosts have not left. Their evil presence and whispers are hunting the dark tomb and creating shockingly dreadful panic in her heart. She is now opening her eyes as wide as possible while trying to see those scary ghosts, but she could not see them. While her eyes are thus widely open, Inaz felt suddenly a powerful flash of light like tongues of fire attacking her eyes. Unbearable pain swept over her eyes and entered her body. If someone had stabbed her eyes with a sharp knife or thrown hot chili powder in her face, he might not have given her so much pain as she is experiencing now. She began to scream loudly. While she was screaming, she heard the ghosts laughing. She tried to use her hands to subside the pain, but she could not because her hands were tied up. Even though her eyes remained tied closed, still she continued to feel the intensified light passing through them. Its heat and brightness are burning her face like hot iron. While Inaz is turning her head right and left, trying to avoid the burning light, she heard the female ghosts speaking to her in human language. "Listen to me, you dirty prostitute," a harsh voice spoke to her. Inaz immediately recognized the voice to be none other than the voice of that huge policewoman who had threatened her inside the dark dungeon and said she is going to make her kiss her feet and urinate in her underwear. "We have no time to waste with you. We have many more other female suspects to interrogate. Tell us how you returned to India." The Indian policewoman who began to interrogate Inaz is a Hindu woman. But she is a secret mistress to the new head of the Bombay Criminal Investigation Department, who is a dangerous Muslim man. He is Ralph Wolf, who loves to steal the suspected female goats and rape them. When he learned about the arrest of the Sudanese apostate girl whom he had extradited to Sudan, at once he contacted his Hindu mistress and ordered her to interrogate her. He does not want the suspected Muslim apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Salah to be interrogated by Muslim policewomen because other Hindu police officers may accuse them of religious bias. He also told his Hindu mistress what words she has to put in the mouth of the suspected foreign female student through her cruel interrogation method. Even though she cannot see her image, Inaz still recollected the huge body of the man who has masqueraded himself as a woman. Therefore, before that evil Indian policewoman can carry out her threat, the innocent foreign refugee girl decided to be incredibly careful in answering her question so that she can possibly avoid the wrath of that ruthless Indian woman. "I had returned to India through the New Delhi International Airport. Why then there is no record of your return in any Indian International Airport's computer? Listen, dirty foreign prostitute, I am warning you in advance. If you give us any false information, you will pay a high price for it. We are going to investigate any information you give us." The Sudanese apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Salah is now in a serious dilemma. She knows she had returned from Doha to Bombay under the name of her Indian girlfriend Teresa Alexander. If she speaks the truth, she will betray her best girlfriend and her brother Mr. Vijay Alexander. She cannot tell lies because the policewomen are going to investigate anything she tells them. The dangerous policewoman has already told her there is no record of her entry into any Indian international airport. Even so, Inaz has tried to justify her first lie. "Maybe due to some human errors, my return to India wasn't recorded in the computer." That is a lie. Any foreigner who enters India, his name must be documented on the day of his entry. Besides, your name is blacklisted by the head of the Bombay Criminal Investigation Department. There is no way you can convince us that you had come back to India through legal routes. Therefore, tell us how you smuggled yourself into our country and who helped you to escape from Qatar and return to India. "I didn't smuggle myself, and no one had helped me to do so." Inaz has suddenly felt a heavy rod hit her back. It caused so much pain that she felt as if a burning iron touched her naked body. She began to scream and struggle violently to free herself from the ropes. Her struggle is in vain. Another strike fell on the same spot and caused more unbearable pain. A third strike, a fourth strike, and a 10th strike. The woman who is beating her has gone into a frenzied rage, and therefore she is showering her naked body with many strikes. Inaz is shouting and trying desperately to prevent the painful floggings from falling on her naked back. It seemed that the screaming of the young foreign female suspect has drawn her female torturer extremely mad. "Shut up your mouth, you dirty foreign prostitute," the harsh voice of the huge woman shouted again. "If you don't close your fucking mouth, I will rip off your skin." Inaz is forced to stop shouting. Her body is now profusely sweating and copiously bleeding. Every part of her body is shivering, and her mouth is moaning. She is feeling her back and shoulders have been set on fire. The fire is burning her body even though she can neither see it nor smell it. She is feeling like she is swimming in the hot molten lava of an erupted volcano. I am repeating my question again. How did you smuggle yourself inside the Indian soil, and who helped you to escape from Qatar? I fled out of the hotel in Doha City. This time, the female foreign suspected student has felt a hand of someone has grabbed her hair and pulled it up. She felt as if her head skin had been peeled off and her hair ripped off too. If the evil policewoman continued to pull up her hair, she might have broken her neck as well. While she is struggling to rescue her neck from being broken by the ruthless Indian policewoman, Inaz felt a cricket stick-like hand hit her face. Every tooth in her mouth began to bleed. Her nose bone has been broken and she can no longer breathe. Her nose is running down blood like a tap running down hot water. Her mouth could not help her to breathe normally. She felt she had been suffocated and she was going to die at any moment. For a few seconds, her spirit is trying to leave her body. Then she felt a full bucket of half-frozen water poured on her naked body. It is either a kind of torture or a mercy killing or even keeping her alive so she can be tortured again and again until she confessed everything. If you keep lying to us, we will torture you to death. We don't care if a foreign female suspect has died during the interrogation. How did you smuggle yourself inside the Indian soil, and who helped you to escape from Qatar? This time, Inaz has not answered the persisting question. Not answering a question is the worst answer to give to the ruthless female police interrogators. Therefore, one of the female extortionists lit a candle and began to burn the naked flesh of Inaz. Another policewoman has threatened to pluck off her nails. The painful burning sensation made her scream louder. Her shouting voice has irritated the man in a woman's clothing, and hence she roared like an angry lioness and held her victim's hair again and pulled her towards her huge chest. That man in a woman's body has 2 breasts as big as 2 soccer or basketballs. Therefore, the head, nose, mouth, ears, and face of the young foreign female suspect have been buried between the 2 huge boobs of the man in the woman's police uniform. Such unbearable torture has made Inaz feel that the female elephant wanted to kill her through suffocation. The foreign girl has almost died before the ruthless Hindu woman released her face. It is a cruel, harsher method of interrogation than waterboarding. The evil Indian policewoman has repeated 5 times that cruel and inhumane method of extracting information from a female suspect. Every time, Inaz felt as if the huge woman decided to press her face on her chest and kill her in that cruel way. The man who has a woman's body is perspiring as if she is in a sauna. Her sweat went inside the nose of Inaz each time she pulled her to her chest and 2 ball-like boobs. Her body smells of a nasty odor as if she has not taken a bath for months. It is the cruelest experience that a human being can ever go through. Even the hardened hearts terrorists of the Islamic Caliphate or Al-Qaeda have not yet invented such cruel torture to kill their victims. The ISIS terrorists beheaded, burned, caged, and buried alive their victims, but what that elephant woman has done to Inaz is 10 times crueler than those of the Muslim terrorists. It would be better to kill a female suspect through suffocation than to do that to a helpless female suspect like the innocent foreign girl Inaz. After all those tortures, a powerful slap hit her right cheek. Her chin has been dislocated and her ears have become deafened. Meanwhile, the burning candle resumed the torture, and this time began to move upwards and downwards on her naked back. Also, she began to feel a sharp needle or nail has been inserted between her fingernail and flesh. This last kind of unbearable torture has forced the refugee girl Inaz to speak out the truth. Please stop torturing me, I will tell you everything. All forms of torture have stopped instantly. Then speak out and speak quickly and truthfully. Someone from Lebanon came to my room in the hotel at Doha City and told me to disguise myself as a boy and then flee out of the hotel. He cut my hair short and gave me a pair of trousers and a shirt and asked me to use those men's clothes to hide my identity as a girl. He promised to meet me outside the hotel and assist me further. The boyish haircut of Inaz has confirmed her words before she finished her confession. What is his name? He said his name is Vijay Alexander. Why did he help you? He said he decided to help me because I have forsaken Islam and become a Christian like him. Okay, we don't care about which accursed religion he is following and what you have become after you have left your evil Islam. Just tell us how you returned to India. After I had escaped from the hotel, he met me outside and introduced me to his wife Teresa Alexander. What happened next? He told me I can use his wife's passport and flee out of the state of Qatar. They wanted to send me to their relatives in Beirut, but I told them I wanted to go back to my husband and daughter in Bombay. Then they took me to a place and got a passport-size photo of me taken. After that, they took me to a Somali man who knows how to change photos and passports. You mean he is a forger? Yes, ma'am. He removed the photo of Teresa and replaced it with my photo. After that, they applied online for an Indian visiting visa for me. We had got the visa at the same time and printed it out. After that, through an Indian traveling agency, they booked my flight from Doha to Bombay. So, you have admitted with your tongue that you returned to India under someone else's name and you used a forged traveling document to come to Bombay? Yes, ma'am. Where is that forged passport now? I burned it as soon as I reached my apartment in the Kalina area. The Lebanese couple who gave it to me told me to get rid of it immediately after my arrival in India. We are going to check the computer of the Bombay International Airport, and also we are going to check the recorded videos of the surveillance cameras at the airport. We are going to investigate every confession you have made. If we cannot verify your confessions, we will interrogate you again. Next time, we are not going to be so nice to you as we have been today. What I have told you is the truth, ma'am. Now you can untie her from the ropes, put on her clothes, and then carry her badly battered body and dump it into the women's jail, shouted the policeman who is masquerading himself as a policewoman.